11/4/20 Improvement Service Committee will come to order, and we'll note all members are present: Alder Burnett, Alder Gaelic, Alder Scannell, and Alder Weary. Can I get an approval of the agenda? And I have one request.
Second.
If the committee doesn't mind, I don't see anybody else here for any other items. Could we move number 3 to the first item? There's one person here for that item.
I move that we move number 3 up to the first position.
All right. So we'll do 3, and then the rest of the order. Those in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
By Alder Scannell, second by Alder Burnett to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll do number 3, consideration of possible action and request by the owners of 802, 803, 808, 814, 820 Ernst Drive for permission to clear snow from their sidewalks during the winter. Well, yeah, it says 2021, but I would think it would be ongoing as well. Brett, do you want to go first on this one, or do you want me to take it?
Your request, Alder. I think
okay,
we just
good.
let you take it.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been down Ernst Drive. It's like a lot of streets. It's a long street that, butts up against Colburn. And I would say 85% of the houses there don't have sidewalks. So everybody just in the street. It's a quiet little street. And there's a few little houses on the end who have a little bit of a sidewalk. So they're asking that they don't have to shovel just to be the same as the rest of the block. There's really just a few houses.
Yeah, according to what we've seen, there are 42 lots on the street, and there are only 5 out of the 42 that have sidewalks. So it's a discontinuous sidewalk, sort of stuck in the middle, if you will.
Oh, so 85%. That's pretty close. It's all right. I'll entertain a motion to open the floor.
Motion to open the floor.
Motion by Alder Scannell.
Second.
Do we need to? Are we gonna, do we?
There's one gentleman here who just would like to speak.
Okay. Sure. Motion,
Yeah.
yep. Okay, yep.
Second by Alder Burnett. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The floor is now open if you wish to speak to the Ernst Drive sidewalk issue. I don't know if he has to unmute or if we have to unmute him.
I'm trying to unmute him, and it's not working.
I heard him earlier.
Yeah, I did as well. There he is.
There you go. Oh, you were there for a second. If you're wishing to speak to this item, just unmute yourself. You had it for one moment and then a click back again. All right. Well, is that something we can do on our end, Steve?
No,
Unmute everyone?
I'm trying to unmute him as
Oh, okay.
well, and I'm not having any success. So whatever he had done.
Oh, while we're working on that, I can just mention that I did speak to the rest of the residents, well, 2 of them, and he spoke to the rest, and no one was opposed. That's what he was going to tell you. It was his initial request, and he went around to all the neighbors, and they agreed he could speak for them.
And if we don't get to hear from him, I will tell you that I am prepared to move to approve this. I see no reason that this should be a problem.
My in-laws live on Ernst.
Ah,
Well,
well,
then maybe I'll reconsider.
They don't have sidewalk.
yeah. All right, well, let's close the floor, I guess.
So move. Close the floor.
Motion by
Oh,
Burnett,
second.
second by Scannell. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. If it pops open again, we can reopen it, but it sounds like you have enough information. Any questions for me or? Okay.
I think it's an area that the alder should be keeping clear.
Shovel it, right? Yeah.
You have a question.
Go ahead, Alder.
Thank you, Chairman Weary. Director Grenier, how do we keep track of this? So say, 3 or 10 or 20 years from now, if someone complains or there's an issue, is Public Works going to keep proper notes on this in case someone has a complaint?
Yes, we just typically maintain it like a spreadsheet in Operations Division that indicates that these sidewalks have been granted a waiver by the Common Council. And if the situation were to change in the future, let's say for some reason, Common Council ordered sidewalks in on the rest of Ernst, then we would automatically bring a communication back to make these 5 houses consistent with the rest of the neighborhood at that time. But for right now, we just, we maintain a database within Operations Division indicating not to enforce this.
Okay. Chairman, I noticed the call
Yep,
is
Mr.
off mute. If I can make a motion to open the floor.
Sure.
Again.
Motion by Alder Burnett, second by Alder Scannell to open the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anyone interested in speaking to this item? It looks like you're unmuted. If I could just get your name and address.
Jamie Moss.
Okay, the floor is yours. Did you want to, I think we just lost you again. You muted yourself. But it sounds like we have support for this item, so.
Yeah. Motion to close the floor.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Alder Burnett, second by Alder Scannell to close the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any other Alder Burnett?
Yeah, I mean, I live near that area. I know the street fairly well. My only concern would be consistency. People not aware that this agreement has been made with the city, but we cross that bridge when we get there. But I'm in support of it. Doesn't make sense. It's not a high pedestrian traffic area. And if the caller, the person who wanted to speak, went through the trouble of contacting his alder and the other people on the street and no one objects, I see no problem with approving this request.
I do have one question, Director. It says for this coming winter, would that actually just mean and all the ones after it, or do they have to come back every year?
If the committee wanted to go ahead and modify that request, now would be the time to do that.
I make
I would
a
enter-
motion that we approve the motion indefinitely or in perpetuum.
All right,
Second.
Perpetuity.
fair enough. Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Gerlach to approve the request with no end date. Any discussion on that? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for your help, and I thank you for logging in. We did pass this. It'll go to council next week on Tuesday. I can't imagine it would be opposed, but we can talk offline. Thanks for your efforts to try and get in. Sorry, it didn't work out so well. We will now move on to item number 1, consideration with possible action on a request by Victoria Miramontes, 1008 Doty Street to rescind special assessments for pavement construction associated with the Doty Street reconstruction project being completed. All right, Director.
Okay, back on the July 15th committee meeting, we took up action on revising the ordinance to address properties that were in mixed-use zoning but operated as single or two-family residential in residential neighborhoods. That was specific to a 3-unit condo but was operated as 3 single-family residential properties on the corner of, I believe, Doty and Webster. The committee did authorize us to go ahead and prepare that ordinance language change. The ordinance did go forward to Common Council in August and was ultimately approved. This is another property that kind of slipped through the cracks out there, but it's the very reason that you folks did make that ordinance change. This particular property is zoned office residential, but is operated, we did verify that, as a single-family residential. So Ms. Miramontes reached out to the department, identified correctly that she's in a very similar situation to the properties that we had already rescinded the previously levied assessments. So we do support the request on behalf of the property owner. And if the committee does agree with that, because we levied the assessments by resolution, we will prepare a companion resolution that'll go forward to Common Council next week to formally rescind those pavement special assessments.
Okay. Any questions for Director?
No. So is the motion to approve or is the motion to go forward with
Would be to approve the request.
okay, motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Gerlach to approve the request. Any discussion on that? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Number 2, consideration with possible action on the creation of a uniform policy and process for recognizing donors and sponsors on items placed on public property, including the public right-of-way, parks, and redevelopment authority-owned property. Director?
I did hear from Alder Johnson today, and he indicated he probably would not be able to make the meeting, but his intent by putting the communication in was to refer this to staff so that staff from Department of Public Works, Community and Economic Development, and Parks, Recreation, and Forestry could get together with the Alder and start fleshing out this kind of language. So his request is to refer to staff.
Motion to refer to staff.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Burnett to refer this item to staff to work with Alder Johnson. Any discussion on that?
I think you should work them over really good.
Sounds good. Those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. We handled number 3. Number 4, consideration with possible action on request by Department of Public Works to approve amendment number 2 to the professional services agreement with Omni Associates for the Gray Street South reconstruction design in the amount of $15,900. Director.
We have included in the packet a copy of the proposed amendment. Again, very similar to the topic you were discussing in the Parks Committee about splitting and phasing a contract. The original Gray Street contract was a single project, and it was supposed to originally be WISTOT funded. Because we got the construction time period that we had planned for the program or for the project didn't fit with the DOT funding. It came out of the DOT, and it's a city-funded project. Because it originally had one set of construction documents, it had to be split into 2 sets of construction documents. Our splits are a little easier than the ones for Park. So what we're looking at is a contract amendment in the amount of $15,900 to complete the second phase of construction documents, so we can bid that out and get it built next year.
All right, any questions on that?
I see no gray area here. Motion to approve.
Motion by
Second.
Alder Scannell, second by Alder Burnett. Discussion.
My usual question,
Sure, go ahead, Alder Gerlach.
where's the money coming from? Are you satisfied this is the right thing to do, guys?
It definitely is the right thing to do, and it comes out of the construction budget.
So it's all there.
It's all there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Number 5, consideration with possible action on request by Department of Public Works to enter into a 3-party agreement with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation and Aries Associates, Inc. for the design of the Chantel Street Bridge replacement, WISDOT project ID 4987-02-77 in the amount of $71,018.91.
Okay, several months ago, we brought forward the state municipal agreement, which is between us and the Department of Transportation, for the design and construction of the Chantel Street Bridge project. That sets up the basic funding parameters, and the cost distribution, cost share arrangement between us and the state, both for the design and the construction. Subsequent to that, then the DOT and City of Green Bay work collaboratively to engage a consultant to do the design work, which we have gone out, reviewed proposals, and have selected Ayers Associates as a design consultant. Once we've completed the selection, DOT design is a little bit different than a lot of other construction design contracts in the fact that it is quality-based selection, so you're actually prohibited from asking about cost during the selection process. You select a consultant, and then after you have the consultant selected, you negotiate the costs. So we went back, negotiated the costs, and have come up with an agreed-upon price of $71,018.91. That is an 80-20 cost share between the DOT and the City of Green Bay. So right now, of that $71,018.91, the city's liability is $14,203.78. So staff is definitely recommending award of that contract, or approval of the three-party agreement.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Burnett, second by Scannell. Under discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Number 6, consideration with possible action on proposed 2021 parking division rate structure. I'm betting this is why Chris is joining us today. Good to see a smiling face. Is that true, Director Grenier? Do you want to hand it off to Chris, or?
That is true. We're going to let
Right.
Operations Director Pierlot take this one.
Here we are again, budget time, end of year, new year coming. Make this a long story short, parking division adjusted all the parking citation rates for effective January 1st, 2020 this year. We're still hearing a little repercussions on that, but people are getting used to the fact that rates go up, costs go up, expenses go up. We aligned our hourly parking fees, with regional and local economy here. So the only thing left is, in rate structure in parking is the rental lease rates. Now, of course, with COVID going on, it would be lovely to increase the rates more because our occupancy is way down, but we maintain costs of operation and what have you. But the cost of living is still running around 2%. So we're recommending a 2% rate increase again for 2021 for our rental and lease rates. That's the only changes in rates for the parking revenue stream that we're proposing for 2021.
So as Chris has mentioned, if you look at page 2 of 5 of the memo, the recommendation is to increase parking rental rates, that's our ramp rates, by 2% rounded up to the nearest dime. The meter rate will be maintained, parking citation rates will be maintained, and the Adams Street lot and parking ramp per hour rate is proposed to stay the same as it was last year. These are the rates that were included for us to develop the parking division budget for the year as well.
All right. Any questions
question.
for either director? Go ahead, Elder Scannell.
What does this include, like, people living downtown or renting a stall? Will those go up too?
Yes. Yep. That is a regular
2%?
rental / lease rate
okay.
structure. So it doesn't matter if you're working downtown or living downtown, it's still that increase, that 2%.
And what is it now? What's the total they pay a week, month, whatever?
Well, it depends where you are renting. Cherry Street ramp is a little bit higher because it's a newer ramp, more expensive, cost, of course, to build and what have you. And then Pine and Main Street ramps are a little bit lower. I can pull it up and Cherry Street ramp is in low to mid $70 per stall per month for a rental rate, and Main and Pine Street ramps are in the high $60 per month rate. I'd hate to say it as the parking manager, but that is a basic compared to other large cities like Green Bay. It's a pretty reasonable rate. Of course, it hurts when you write the check once a month and do the math how much you pay a year.
Yep.
But that's the cost of business.
Right. I have no problem with it all with it. That's just fine. And we had been talking for years, and things seem to keep happening to put it off. But we're talking about putting meters back on Broadway. Are we still considering that off eventually here, or has that been tabled completely? Or
No, that is still part of DPW's plan. We haven't necessarily brought it forward. Matter of fact, in 2020, it was our intent to update the parking study that was completed back in 2013. But when COVID hit and our revenues dropped off, we had to make adjustments to the budget. So one of the things that we cut immediately was the parking study, hoping that we could fund that in 2021 instead. That is probably that may be the only recommendation out of the 2013 study that we didn't actually implement.
Right.
So when we revise the study, we will be looking at that again. But we do feel that the situation has changed. When the meters were removed, Broadway was struggling. They had issues attracting and retaining the types of businesses that they wanted to sustain downtown. So to help get them back on their feet, those meters came out. They are a very vibrant, active business area now. And a lot of the complaints that we hear from Broadway area businesses are actually that the lack of available convenient parking, and that's from what we've found, and Chris will correct me if I'm wrong, what we're finding the problem to be is it's largely employees of those businesses who are parking those stalls in, and their customers have to walk a significant difference. So how do you promote that turnover to allow new people to get in and out of the businesses? Restrict the parking.
Yeah, Steve's absolutely correct. Obviously parking meters generate revenue, but really in a vibrant downtown area, parking meters are a tool to help maintain that turnover for your parking patrons or your business patrons, as opposed to for the owner and employees to be able to park conveniently in front of their own door.
So are we going to look, do you think we won't go forward with that then till after this next study is done? Or is there?
If there's a desire on behalf of somebody to propose it and bring it forward, we definitely entertain it.
Well, I'm thinking it's COVID-19, so maybe not, maybe wait a little, but it's long overdue. It's just, and it seems like every time we're about ready to take that step, something happens. But it's got to be happening one of these days. We got to do it.
In addition, all my years as the parking manager, serving for the city here, I've always treated and looked at our downtown. Yes, there's a river that runs through the center of it, but our downtown is a cohesive downtown, should be.
Yep.
So we need to treat all areas of the downtown similarly.
Yep. And then the only other question I remember we kind of started working on this a little bit a while back, and I don't know where it went. I talked with you, Chris, about delivery zone, setting up a delivery zone downtown. Are we still kind of working on that?
Yes, we actually, and that's something that we internally put together for at least the east side where there are parking meters or more severe parking restrictions, because the restricted parking isn't as prevalent over in the Broadway area. Having loading zones hasn't been as big a problem over there just yet, but where we do have metered parking here on the east side, it is more of a problem. So when Metro went in, we reserved spots on the 100 block of North Washington. We've got the 200 block, the north side 200 block of Cherry Street, immediately south of the Adams Street lot, between the Adams Street lot and the Cherry Street ramp. That's designated as like taxi cab only or something, but it becomes a de facto loading zone, so we utilize that. We put one in front of the former Children's Museum of Green Bay to service the 300 block, and then on the 100 block of City Deck Court, there's a small loading zone down at the far west end. We're also working with the mayor's office on taking a look at other areas, not only on the east side, but also over on the west side, where loading zones or curbside designations for curbside commerce, especially in light of COVID, would be practical.
Right, and that's what I was thinking mostly with the businesses was a curbside, not just loading for, but
right, and that's actually a larger discussion that is drawn in Community and Economic Development Department as well.
Yeah, and as everyone's remembering, this was an item that was discussed at Improvement Services Committee in May or early June. And we have identified, like Steve said, all these zones. And of course, we're in the middle of pandemic. And then there was that kind of started to climb downtown business activity. And now then it slumped again. And we're not necessarily, I'm not saying we don't need it, but we're not necessarily seeing a dire need where people are pounding on City Hall's doors to say, hey, get these zones set up. So, but we do have some proposals.
Okay, good. Well, I want to know where we're going to set the twilight zone.
Any other questions regarding
Thank you.
the rates from anybody? All right.
So is this a motion to approve?
Yes.
Motion to approve.
There's a
Second.
motion by Alder Scannell, second by Elder Gerlach to approve the proposed 2021 parking division rate structure. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 7, report of actions taken by Department of Public Works. A, granting of licenses. 1, sidewalk builder D&T Construction LLC was granted. So we would just need to receive and place in a file.
Yes.
So moved.
Motion by Alder Burnett to receive and place on file.
Second?
Second by Alder Scannell. Any questions on that? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Informational. Proposed 2021 Department of Public Works Vehicle and Equipment Plan. That's number 1.
Historically, we have brought forward the equipment replacement plan, vehicle and equipment replacement plan, because this is part of the budget, but it's not within the general fund. It was actually the expenses that were found in the 203 fund. As we started making the transition, the way that this was funded, there was a line item within our 101 fund that was called city equipment usage. And every time that we sent a piece of equipment out the door for use on a project, that's logged and then it was billed at a fraction of the state rate. That money was charged against the 101 fund and the money was placed into the 203 fund. And then the 203 fund had the funding available to purchase replacement equipment. So we used to bring this plan through because the individual pieces of equipment we were intending to replace in any given year didn't necessarily appear in the budget. Now, with us changing and bonding for that equipment, it's no longer a budget discussion. And then talking with finance, last year was the first year we made a change. The 203 fund is actually supposed to be more of a special revenue fund, and this really isn't special revenue, it's more of a capital account. So they redesignated and put it in the 400 series, so it's now under the 427, 428, and 429 accounts. So again, all we're doing with this is we are identifying what equipment we are intending to replace so that you folks have a chance to take a look at that and see what we're going to be asking for. Another big change that came around within the last year is with the finance committee getting more actively involved in a city-wide capital improvement and capital bonding role, where we had individual departments doing their bonding requests and then consolidating just simply the bonding requests through finance department. The capital improvement program actually will go to finance for their consideration as opposed to coming here. So we want to make sure that we're keeping you folks informed of what equipment we're planning on replacing when we make our bond request to the finance committee. So this is, as opposed to being an action item, it's more it's listed under informational.
Questions from committee? So this is already submitted, Steve?
It has not been submitted yet. This
Okay.
will be going to finance when they take up the capital.
But all the numbers have been entered into the capital improvements program
Yes.
documents, so they're forthcoming.
Will that be at like the next finance meeting?
I'm not sure when that's going to be. I haven't had an opportunity to have that discussion with the finance director yet. But obviously, up until 4:30 this morning, they had some larger pressing needs.
Yeah. I saw you last night. Did you get any sleep?
I did, and I apologize for not having more of a conversation with you. I don't know if you're aware, but I've got some hearing issues, and when we had that tabulator running, it was very difficult for me to hear anything.
It's okay. When I passed by you, something was going wrong with the machine, and I saw you waving your arms, so I knew better than to. All right, then I'll entertain a motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
Motion by Elder Scannell, second by Elder Burnett to receive and place on file. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And Director's report.
Okay, just a couple of things for your information here. As of 6 o'clock this morning, yard waste collection, we had completed 3 rounds on the west side of the river, and east side we were almost through the 3rd round, so I was anticipating by the end of day today we should have completed the 3rd round over there. We will stay with all hands on deck on leaves until November 20th. After that, we can't promise anything because, again, you hear this from me every year. After November 20th, we really do need to start concentrating and getting our equipment ready for winter, and that's about a 3-week conversion to get the fleet moved over for winter operations. And it's the same trucks, the same loaders, the same sidewalk units and tractors that we plow snow with that handle leaf collection. So what we can promise you is until we need the equipment for snow removal, we can dedicate some of the sidewalk equipment because that change-out's relatively quick. Some of the loaders, because the loaders that have the tink clams on them, it's relatively easy to drop the tink clam and put the plow blade on. And then we'll go with the suction vehicles, so any of the back trucks that we currently have on leaves, and the rear loading garbage trucks, the pan units that we utilize. To the extent that we can, we're not, after November 20th, we are not abandoning leaf collection. It's not the same all hands on deck approach that we do have during the beginning portion of it. So we will continue to chip away at the stone with the men and equipment that we have dedicated to that, but we can't dedicate all the equipment. We do need to make that transition for winter operations. Obviously, if those of you who were at the Joint Personnel and Finance Committee on Monday night know that we have been diligently working on putting our budget together, and our budget was submitted and then rolled up into the mayor's citywide budget. So we're happy to announce that 2021 draft budget that came from DPW and submitted to the mayor, I think we were about $11,000 under our 2020 budget request, and that includes cost of living increases for salaries and fringe. So even after the increases that came in due to salaries and fringe, we were still 11,000 lower than we had last year. So if anyone's got any questions before the budget hearing at Common Council next week, by all means, I encourage you to call in and talk to me about those. But we came in as bare bones as we could, and I'm pretty proud of staff and what they did to put that budget together. Last thing I wanted just to make the committee aware of was the amount of assistance that DPW did provide relative to the November election. Real proud of everyone who was involved from DPW. The remote drop boxes, those needed to be modified, so that was taken care of by Operations Division. We had our electricians out working with Wisconsin Public Service to get the temporary power for those drop box locations, as well as some modifications over at Sears to utilize Sears as a large voting precinct. We worked cooperatively with Parks Department and the Bay Beach staff to get temporary heat put into Bay Beach, so that could be used as a polling location. Chris's guys again stepped up to the plate as far as equipment delivery and collection to get the voting machines delivered, transport of all of the absentee ballots and necessary equipment for central count to move from the clerk's office here at City Hall over to the KI Convention Center and back. There was a lot of logistic support that we provided for a variety of different things that just sort of popped up during planning for this election. And then there were quite a few people from DPW who were involved with central count, as well as out at the regular polling locations. So I was real happy with the amount of effort that went in and the teamwork that DPW was able to provide in support of the clerks and finance departments to help pull that election off yesterday. So just wanted to make you aware of that.
Great job. Excellent job. Panel?
Just a question and a comment. With leaf collection, how's it been going as far as property owners pushing their leaves in the streets? Have we been pretty good compliance? Have we cited anybody?
We have elected not to cite in the fall. What we're doing is we're, again, like we did with the spring collection, we are going through a very exhaustive educational process. And you've heard Chris say it in the past, you've heard me say it. Our goal is not to cite people. Our goal is to get compliance. Mm-hmm. We are getting a lot of complaints. There was an error in the video that we let out there. Josh did incorrectly state that we would be hand raking the terraces, and we do not do that. Our intent is to do bulk collection of leaves. So, we get it both ways. There are folks who are saying you didn't take enough of the leaves, and then we've got the same number of people saying, when you put that brush up in the front yard, you're tearing my lawn up. So again, the intent is to get the bulk of the leaves picked up, not to rake your yard so it looked like a professional landscaper was there. I'm happy with how things are going. We do have quite a few people that we're sending letters out to again. We're sending, individual letters to every property owner that we notice is in violation of the city ordinance, and we are asking for their cooperation. We have rewritten the letter so it doesn't sound as harsh as the first letter did. I think that's one of the unfortunate circumstances is when you let engineers write things. We're very short and to the point. So with this one, we did engage the administrative staff who's been taking a lot of those phone calls and incorporated their comments to kind of soften it up and make it a nicer reading. The first letter was primarily Matt Heckenleibel and myself and Jim Burnett who worked on that letter. This one we got Chris involved right away because Chris has got a much more gentle writing style than the three of us do.
One could say flowery.
So again, the whole intent here is educational. We'd like to let them know, not only that this is a violation of the ordinance and leave it at that, but why it's important and ask for their cooperation. Again, if we never had to write a single citation, we'd be happier than anybody. We don't like wearing the black hat. It's just part of who we are and what we do.
And if you want to hear some black and white engineer type numbers, there's as of today, about 3,000 residences on the list that we found and noted yard waste in the road that looked like it was raked there as opposed to being blown there, slumping off a pile. Mm-hmm. And about 300 of those are repeat offenders from this past spring. And I don't think that's too bad. In the general trend that we've been seeing, and I'm not the only one who said this, I've heard it in feedback too, and I like to hear it, is you see a lot more people, it appears that they're very conscious and they're getting it up on the terrace. You hear a lot of talk around town, whether it's in your own neighborhood or wherever you are, that people are sharing that information. And that's part of the education campaign. Word of mouth is a powerful advertiser.
So we had after the spring collection, we had about 2,300 letters that we sent out for violators, and only 300 of those 2,300 repeated the action. It has generated a lot of conversation. Not only have the front office staff been taking a lot of phone calls, but Chris and myself have been returning a lot. I've probably talked to in excess of 100 people already.
Oh, yeah.
And again, it's been some really good conversation. I did talk to an individual up in Schmidt Park. They were on Mount Mary, and they've got a limestone slab fieldstone foundation. Their entire yard is raised about 2.5 to 3 feet above street level, and there's less than a foot between that wall and the back of curb. So the individual called and said, okay, Steve, I got the letter indicating I'm not allowed to put them, but where do I put them? There's no terrace for me, and if I leave them on top of the wall and your guys come with their equipment, they're going to tear my wall down. And luckily, this individual has a landscaper that comes over and rakes his yard for him. So what we did was, okay, you're in a whatever route. Let's say, just for sake of discussion, he's in a Tuesday route. And we were going to be in his route in 2 days' time. We had his landscaper monitoring Facebook because this individual doesn't do Facebook. And because Chris has been busy putting out the daily updates, that individual knew that we were going to be coming past the house the following day. So he had his landscape guy at the house that day. They had the pile of leaves up on top of the wall, and the landscaper immediately in front of our sidewalk units, the tractors, he then raked things down into the street, and the tractor came right and picked them up on the fly. So we're getting that cooperation. The individual took the effort necessary to meet the intent of what we were doing. So, yeah, we're happy with the with how things have been going.
And then comment, kudos on the budget.
Thank you.
Alder Gerlach?
I would just like to say thank you for your work with the election, and thank you for the leaf pickup. It's so much fun to watch. It's just done so well. You did my street today, so there are so many leaves this time, and great job. I'm a little confused because I thought originally we were told October 12th to November 12th, but I think you just said you'll possibly be still picking up leaves until November 20th.
Right.
Okay.
We're advertising the last day you can put leaves to the street to have 100% assurance that DPW will pick them up is Sunday, November 15th.
Okay.
And then we'll do a last round starting on the 16th that week.
Okay.
I think you're correct, Alder Gerlach. I think
Yeah, so the
originally
20th
we had
is that
anticipated
Friday
the
of
week.
that following week.
We had anticipated 1 week earlier, but when we saw how long the leaves were hanging on with a lot of the trees, usually by this time, the only thing that's left out there are the oaks. And there's just so many trees that are hanging on to the leaves later into the season this year. We just made the decision to kick it out and go as late as we possibly could.
Okay, but what I tell people is November 15th is the last date you should put leaves out at the curb?
That's the last day we can guarantee
100%
it.
assurance that we will get them. They can put them out anytime, but there's no guarantee after the 15th. If they
Okay.
put them out.
And also, as far as putting leaves out in the street, be you with Green Bay Neighborhoods on reminding people about that? I would recommend that you work through the neighborhood associations.
I'll follow up with them. We've been, going out. We had a piece with Fox 11. It was a 4-section piece. That was really neat. Started early, but it was good to get the word out. We've had a lot of interaction on the phone with, unfortunately, complaints, but they all have really turned out pretty good. That word, like I said, word of mouth, Facebook, city website. But I haven't been very active with the neighborhood stuff, and I'll follow up on that in the morning.
Okay, I have noticed that it has improved, so thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Alder. Anybody else? Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive and place on file.
So moved. A second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, second by Alder Burnett to receive and place on file the director's report. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Looks like our next meeting is Wednesday, November 18th.
And we will keep an eye on that. If there's not anything that's time sensitive, we may wind up canceling that one for you.
Because we only meet.
No, we'll
Yeah, we
actually
meet one
be
more
meeting
time.
twice in December, but the first, the first December meeting is December 1st, this being the week before Thanksgiving. If there's nothing that's critical, we'll probably just delay things.
Perfect. All right.
Well, let's do it with a drumstick. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Alder Scannell.
Second.
Second by Alder Gerlach. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
care.
carried. Have a good evening.
Thank you all.